Very noticeably, Invincible Season 3 has come out and gotten a lot of flack for its animation and art style. The animation, I get, it has issues, big and small, and they are objective issues, but whether they affect your show viewing experience, that's subjective, that's up to you. But I've seen a lot of people compare the art style to like the comics or other shows of the same type and then complain about that. That I have more of an issue with. I feel like that's, I don't want to say short-sighted, but that's not the right word. But it doesn't take in the whole picture of what the art style is trying to accomplish and how well it works for the show. To me, it felt very familiar to a discussion that just never seems to end in the Ben 10 community, and I think there are some things that I could compare and add to the discussion on whether or not any given show's art style is good or bad, or why it even matters at all. Super quick, let's get one little idea out of the way. The idea that while animation has objective qualities that can make it objectively good, which it does, like knowing when to animate at a higher or lower frame rate, where and when to use CG models, squashing and stretching, smear frames, and all that fun stuff. That's all incredibly important to any show. It absolutely is. And knowing when and when not to, and also how to use those aspects of animation, is a massive deciding factor in how good an animated piece looks. The idea that I want to argue against a bit is that an art style is completely the opposite, being completely subjective. Yes, an art style has a lot more subjective aspects. You may just actually not like a show with very subdued colours, very cartoony and expressive characters, or very busy art. That's totally fine, of course it is. No matter the objective qualities of an art style, you may always favour or dislike some more than others. It is totally fine for subjective talk to happen. It's what makes art interesting. But it is important to acknowledge the positive traits in something you don't like and the negative traits in something you love. The job of an art style, and where its objective quality will come from, is how it communicates with the audience. Any conventional piece of media has two means to communicate to the audience: audio and visual stuff. This is the visual video. I don't know. Maybe we can do a video about Utopia and the Edge of Sleep for audio. Maybe we can do that. But the visuals, the art style of a show, is half of what the audience experiences. It is half of how the themes, characters, narrative, and every other little aspect you can think of is presented to the audience. If an art style doesn't match with the tone of the writing, the speed of the action, the intensity of the audio, or is incongruent with any other piece, it will hurt it. You couldn't effectively tell the character-based story of Full Metal Alchemist with the art style of Bill and Mandy's Grim Adventures, nor could you effectively tell the jokes of Looney Tunes with the art style of Astrades. Both obviously very exaggerated examples, but you get it. An art style is made up of the quality of detail, the size of the color palette, the ease of movement, expressiveness, and how many effects are used, and the beholdens to reality. So while Invincible's animation has a lot of objective issues, sure, whether or not those issues are enough to affect your enjoyment of the finished product, that's up to you. But what about its art style? How well does it suit the story being told by Invincible? I'd say that it's good, really good, but I do agree with people that it's not perfect. The animators are absolutely putting out amazing work, and I wouldn't change any of them, but I think that a slightly altered art style to better fit its story, themes, and I don't know what you'd call it, the balance of dialogue to action would really help it. And I'm not talking about completely changing the art style. I'm not asking for the comics to be animated exactly how they're drawn. They're very different mediums. They have to be done differently. To get to that answer of how I'd change it, I'd like to discuss Ben 10 for a couple of moments and explain how important it is for a show's story and art style to be in sync to be of quality. I would say that all of Ben 10's art styles are really, really effective at what they're trying to do. A lot of fans fight over which style is the best, and how terrible some are, and how perfect others are, and all that. But seriously, each art style is achieving exactly what it's trying to do incredibly well. And while I might have a favourite and least favourite, I can look past that and say that they are almost all perfectly equal in quality. The original series is filled with detail and biological disgust. It aims to make the aliens feel truly distant from anything the audience might recognize. Perfect example being the transformation of four arms. Watch as Ben's watch sinks into his arm as his skin stretches around it. His shirt stretches and nearly tears, trying to hold all of this rapidly growing muscle. The veins are pushed and force his skin to act more like cling wrap. Veins burst from his ribs, tangling into arms and fingers. He has the wrong amount of eyes, fingers, toes, and arms. His skin blends with his suit and is so far removed from humans. It's just crazy. It looked so painful. It looked so disgusting. It looked so alien. This makes wonderful art for a show that is meant to make the audience feel lost in this new world and powerless to its villains. Aliens, mutants, and other strange creatures, all featuring the same level of unknowable, inhuman detail. This could work for Invincible if maybe his main opponents were things so removed from Mark he doesn't even know how to fight them, but that's not really what happens. Most enemies are humanoid and have pretty conventional fights. Mark is rarely totally powerless or clueless to an opponent. The art of the original Ben 10 also has decently expressive characters, probably to the same degree of Invincible, so I'd say it'd work for its standing and talking dialogue based scenes. The original series art style isn't really the fit for Invincible, I don't think. Alien Force and Ultimate Alien have a very realistic style, and what I mean is that the characters don't really squash and stretch. They all have believably human movements and designs, and there isn't too much flair put in post on the actions. This is an art style that is very beholden to reality. This is the closest to what Invincible already has. This art style works very well in doing the opposite of the original series. It works to establish the familiar and then through the writing subvert it to create some effect. Perfect example being the literal first episode. The very real feeling Ben going to a real camper van is all so normal. So normal we don't really feel anything watching it. But the instant he steps inside, it's like a new world. It's complete darkness, a super bright light coming from behind a door, and unreal amounts of mess and disgust everywhere. Damn, Grandpa Max. The audience latches even more onto Ben as our protagonist, as our normalcy. The first DN alien shows up, and his head is removable and like its own creature, and his skin is more like a banana's peel that it can get in and out of. That's gross. This styling works really well for the dialogue and character side of the show. It makes it so easy to watch these characters, get incredibly invested in them, and therefore being able to watch all the dialogue scenes later on. It does like a little bit in the action department. The very realistic characters do not aid themselves to the heightened fighting around Ben 10 and Invincible. They absolutely can pull off good action, but it is restrained. Like I said, for the mystery and character-based storytelling found in the very grounded Ultimate Alien Force seasons, this works perfectly. But I don't think Invincible leans enough on its mysteries or characters as much as Ben 10 did back in that era. It needs to be a little bit more accommodating for its big fight scenes, since that's where it wants to do most of its character work. Not the quiet, slow scenes, but the fighting after. Ben 10 Omniverse's art style is great as well. Omniverse is trying to put on a show, just really and truly entertain. Its art lends itself very well to humor and really well done fight scenes. It's hyper expressive with very flexible and exaggerated designs perfect for unserious jokes and action. And obviously that's the issue. Omniverse has sad and serious moments, but they usually have to only feature certain characters that are a lot more able to be taken seriously. And as soon as that sad music starts, it's just like normal humans, Rook, and the brand new muscular cool alien Ben got in that season. It's not bad, it just feels very different from the rest of the show when it gets to serious time. Omniverse has to try the hardest to wrangle its art style to work for the story. Obviously, this wouldn't work for Invincible. Invincible is too focused on why these characters are fighting rather than just the fighting for this to work. It would maybe work if Mark and his father were making lighthearted jabs at each other before having their big fight, and never actually escalating to the point of the train or plane set pieces. Not really a perfect match either. The Ben 10 reboot has probably the most divisive art style, but like I said, for the others, it is a short, gag-based show that has characters and art designed for short, gag-based stories. It's so expressive and it's so exaggerated that they can't even really do action anymore. They have action scenes technically, but they're not exhilarating or tense, nor are they trying to be or have to be. Like I said, this art style perfectly fits the show, but it's just the exact opposite of Invincible, so we don't have to discuss it. So what? We've gone through all the Ben 10 shows and discussed Invincible in an effort to explain art styles, how to objectively and subjectively critique them, and now what? I've got to give an answer. Is Invincible's art style perfect? Can it be improved? What show would Invincible better be served by? Well, it's Ben 10 adjacent.
Incoming!
Haha, that's right. Just went through this whole thing to trick you into watching a Generator Rex video. And yeah, I think that Generator Rex's art style would be absolutely perfect for Invincible. Invincible does that thing where all the lines are super thin and they don't have any thickness variation and all their endpoints are very sharp. This can be used super well and is great for cost saving and speeding up production for what would usually be very time consuming projects. I'm not at all trying to make it sound like, oh, this is easy, or I think the animator's trying to cut corners or anything like that. Absolutely not. This art style was probably a necessity. I think a lot of people forget that the animators are making decent length seasons with episodes that would be, double the length for any other regular show. And they're making a season like this every year or 2 years now. That's an insane amount of work, and it's stunning that they are making anything half as good as Invincible is, but I'm talking just artistically. In a perfect world where animators could do their business and be directed by people who actually know what they're doing, I think that Invincible's story would be better suited by something like Generator Rex's art style. I would love to say the Heroes United movie art style, but even in a perfect world, that's just unachievable for a show that isn't just animated in a sweatshop. Generator Rex's art has nice, simple shadows and highlights, pen strokes that taper off near the edges, and a much more naturalistic way of drawing, allowing more curves and smooth lines. The art is so perfect. Okay, kind of a weird tangent, but just go with me here. My big issue with the so many fan, big quotes, fixed versions of Invincible's art is that they will be the most overdone, super extreme shadows with every little detail being highlighted and everyone's eyes reflecting all of the 10,000 impact frames they've edited in, and every movement is just smear frames, and yeah. That can look good with certain very fast action sequences, but you show me that art style in regular talking scenes, then we can talk. Or even just in a scene in a fight where the characters are meant to be understood and expressive and be communicating to the audience why they fight, like Invincible so often does. An art style must be congruent with the rest of the show, as I've said, yeah, but it must also be congruent with itself. If you've made it this far in the video, I know you're the kind of person who know exactly what I'm talking about. Isn't it so annoying when a show will go from that fan-fixed version in the action scenes, but as soon as it goes into dialogue, it's just like it's cardboard cutouts on paddle pop sticks. Because the lighting and designs are so over the top, it's just impossible to animate subtlety. Those little changes and those little expressions of emotions. It just totally breaks the immersion to see that hard cut between action and then dialogue, as if it's two different shows. The style must be able to accommodate both equally. Neither Invincible or Generator Rex have that problem, but it is a factor in the discussion in looking for a perfect art style for a certain story. Generator Rex works with subtlety, with realistic faces that are easy to relate to, easy to understand, and just enough detail that the horrible and easy to fight against monsters still work in the style. It can accommodate superpowered action and these deeply human moments that we actually watch the shows for. I would say that Generator Rex and Invincible have decently similar stories in tone, theme, and quality, but I would say that because of its ability to be heightened through its art, Generator Rex is massively more effective at delivering this story. I just gotta be real, I love Generator Rex, Invincible, and Ben 10 so much. This type of video is really the only way I could talk about all of them at once. This was a very discursive video. This is not usually what I make. This was just me talking about something I'm passionate about. I'm not trying to seem like an expert, I'm just trying to learn, and making these videos, condensing the ideas and the research I've done into one place really helps me learn. And what I'm hoping for more than anything is a discussion in the comments. How do you feel about these shows? Do you think if any of the Ben 10 shows switched art styles, would they be made better? I don't know. This was just made to explore the difference between subjective and my attempt at objective views on art styles, and how crucial they can be for affecting a story's quality. All the shows do a very good job of communicating to the audience what the theme, mood, and stories are all at a quick glance, but there can be small differences that help or negate what a show is trying to do. If the story of Invincible was put into one of the Ben 10 art styles, it would have to be a slightly different story depending on the style to actually work. Generator Rats and Invincible are very similar shows, and a bit more blood to Generator Rats, you just have Invincible, but those small things, those like the type of pen they use to animate, can make one art style great and the other perfect. And like I said ages ago, it's totally fine to just like one more than the other despite having more flaws or less flaws than another. My ranking of all these art styles based off objective facts and subjective tastes would both look totally different. Just feel open to acknowledging what something you dislike does well and what you do like doing poorly. I won't put any of these shows on the Dedepa mark because I actually want to talk about all of them in depth at some point. Keep an eye out for the Darksiders 2 video. One day.